to another amazing edition of the program, Weekly Digest from Table of Happy Family Counseling Foundation. It's so nice to have you guys join us once again for another amazing edition of the program, Weekly Digest. For this week, we shall be looking at what Rhesus factor is all about when considering marriage. And today we have a very special guest who shall be joining us in the studio to discuss the matter of discussion. Do stay tuned as I take you through the program today.
Viewers, good day. I'm Dr. Ayeyemi Adeyinka Joseph, a consultant obstetrics and gynecology working with the Federal Medical Center. The term Rhesus factor, it's a means of identification of the human blood group. Like we all know, the human beings and many other animals have blood flowing in their veins. And over the years, for the purpose of saving lives, we have developed methods of transfusing blood from one human being to another. To avoid mistakes when you transfuse blood, the different blood types in human beings have been categorized, and one system of categorization is what we refer to as a Rhesus blood group. So the Rhesus factor is just a protein that is on top of the human blood cells, which is used as a means of identification of the blood groups in human beings. The Rhesus factor, like I said previously, are categorized into various forms. We have what we refer to as Rhesus positive and what we refer to as Rhesus negative. That's a function of categorization of these Rhesus blood group. The Rhesus blood group are categorized as means of identification for them is to say there are D genes, there are C genes, and there are E genes. The most important one for us is the D, which is the one that is most expressed in human beings. So the ways of identification of genes is to say the ones that are expressed and usually the ones that are suppressed. So when people inherit these genes from their parents, they tend to have these proteins on their blood cells, and it is these proteins that when they come into the blood system and come in contact with other new proteins are going to be responsible for what we refer to as blood transfusion reaction. So it's important that couples know their blood group and especially the genotype factor that they carry before marriage, because when somebody that is Rhesus negative marries a man that is Rhesus positive, the possibilities are there that the offspring, the babies that they will conceive, are likely to inherit this Rhesus factor from the mother and the father. And if the mother is Rhesus negative and the coming offspring inherits a Rhesus factor that is referred to as positive from the father, then the risk when blood of the baby for some reasons get in contact with the blood of the mother, then the mother is going to produce what we refer to as antibodies. These are fighting proteins that destroys foreign proteins in the body, and so the production of this will result in destruction of the blood cells of the baby that is coming, and then they make it difficult for the woman to be able to carry further babies. So like we are saying, the Rhesus system is classified into different classes, and I explained before that you have the D, you have the C, and you have the E. In the D, you have both the one that is dominant, which we refer to as a capital D, and the little d that is recessive. So when people pick up the capital D protein, you understand we are calling proteins now. Those are the things we are calling factor. Proteins are things that are in the blood, that when the blood sees it, he will recognize and say, I know this one. But when he sees another one, he will say, I don't recognize it. And human beings have different types, and that is the basis for sharing people and say this person has protein capital D, this person has protein small d. So when people have the capital D, we refer to them as Rhesus positive. When people have the small d alone, we refer to them as Rhesus negative. However, because of mixing up at the time of forming the baby in the mother's womb, some people may have both the capital D and the small d. So those that have two capital D are said to be Rhesus positive homozygote. Those that have a capital D and a small d are heterozygote, but they will behave like Rhesus positive. It is only those people that have small d's that will behave as if they don't have a Rhesus factor in their body, and I'll refer to them as Rhesus negative. The C factors and the E factors are not as strongly important as the D factor. So I think I will just leave it at that. Like I've explained about the grouping of the Rhesus factor, there are really no compatibility in the Rhesus factor. What is important is that couples who have similar Rhesus factors would not have any problem. If a man is Rhesus negative and the husband is Rhesus negative, which is very rare because we have only about less than 10% of the population carrying the Rhesus negative factor. But if they were both of the same type of protein, that is, they are both small d, so we refer to them as Rhesus negative, then they don't have any problem. If they are both big D, which we refer to as Rhesus positive, then they would not have problem. Issue begins to occur when there is a difference between the couple, between the man and the woman that are in a marriage relationship going to have children. So when there is a transfer of a gene that is different from that of the mother to the baby, that is where issues of incompatibility occurs. But so long as the gene in the mother, the gene in the baby are the same, there's usually going to be no problem. So where the problem is when that protein that I'm referring to as gene are different. So if a woman is Rhesus positive, negative, and then she's carrying a Rhesus positive baby, then there will be problems if her blood is to get in contact with the blood of the baby. So we were discussing compatibility and incompatibility just now. Meaning that, let me break it down for you. When somebody gets a new protein into his blood, it's like a visitor coming to a country. When a visitor enters a new country, immigration officers will stop him and say, where are you going to? Who are you? The same way, if a person has a Rhesus negative, he does not have any form of antibody in his body. All he has is the protein of Rhesus factor that is suppressed. That is why we call it Rhesus negative. The body does not show it, so the body does not produce any antibody ready to fight anything. There's no immigration officer to stop anybody. But immediately that person's blood comes in contact with another person that is Rhesus positive, as in a woman who is pregnant, and then the boy or the girl that is in her womb is Rhesus positive because the man that conceived her is Rhesus positive. Then, if at certain times in that pregnancy or at the time of delivery, the blood of the baby who is Rhesus positive now, carrying the protein of Rhesus factor, comes in contact with that of the mother who is not carrying any protein, so to say, so she's negative. So if that positive baby's blood touches that of the mother, either during the time of procuring an abortion, the time of bleeding in pregnancy, or at the time of delivery, when the placenta is being delivered, if the blood of the baby through the placenta or through the cord gets in contact with the mother's blood, the body will automatically see that blood of the baby as a foreigner. And once it sees it as a foreigner, it will call for the immigration officer, which we call antibodies, call for the police of the body, call for the soldiers of the body, and then they will hold that Rhesus positive blood and say, where are you going to in this body? And in the means of doing that, they are going to produce things like we call antibody. And then we say the woman has become sensitized. That is, she's ready to fight any Rhesus positive blood. She has produced armory. She has produced guns. She has produced machinery that she will keep in a corner. Even if that first baby or that first pregnancy that was aborted goes unnoticed, but the woman will have produced what the army will call armory, what people will call machine guns, keep it in her body ready for the next baby. There will be no problem with that first baby, so nobody will know anything happened. There will be no problem in that first abortion. Nobody will know anything happened. There will be no problem in that bleeding in pregnancy, especially if that bleeding in pregnancy is towards the end of pregnancy. But when that woman gets pregnant again, and this time around, if the coming baby is again a Rhesus positive blood carrying baby, and the mother will not change her own blood, she remains Rhesus negative, but she's not a different woman. She's a woman who is prepared, produce guns, produce armory, produce what we call antibodies to fight any Rhesus positive blood. Immediately that happens and she's pregnant, those antibodies she has produced will pass through her blood, through the placenta, to the blood of the baby. They will now be looking for any Rhesus positive blood. Once they see that baby's blood, which is Rhesus positive, they'll begin to kill the baby's blood. They'll begin to destroy the baby's blood. And don't forget, the mother has more blood, therefore more antibody. The baby's blood is tiny inside. So before you know it, they will have almost destroyed the whole of the baby's blood. So what can happen? The baby completely dies inside. Or if the baby is lucky and all his blood is not finished, the baby begins to have what we call heart failure inside. And then the baby is born swollen all over. Stomach is swollen, heart is swollen, and the baby may eventually die almost immediately after birth. If the woman is lucky and the baby does not die inside her womb or immediately at delivery, then that baby within the first 1 day of life is going to develop what we call jaundice, because all the blood that is being destroyed, the thing that is destroyed, the waste product of those blood, will gather themselves and make the eye of the baby yellow. And it's not just the eye being yellow that is the problem. As is depositing in the eye, depositing in the skin, it's also depositing in the brain. As soon as it begins to deposit in the brain, it's killing the brain of the baby. And this will start happening the very first day of life or the second day of life. And because most people will have quickly taken their children home, they won't realize. But once you take a child home that way and you see that the child is becoming yellow in the eye, or the child is becoming very hot in the body, or that child that used to suck before is refusing to suck, then you know that there is danger. You should quickly return to the hospital. So it's so important that persons who are Rhesus positive, who are Rhesus negative, intending to get married, understand and know what is their blood. It's not just enough to know I am AB, I'm AB, I'm A, I'm O. No, beyond A and B and A and O, you must know what is your Rhesus status. Are you A positive or A negative? Are you B positive or B negative? Are you AB positive or AB negative? Are you O positive or O negative? So very important, because these consequences of a woman becoming sensitized, that is, the woman producing antibody, producing what we will call guns, fighting material, and keeping it ready in her body. Once it has happened, there's nothing else we can do. The procedure that we use to wash those blood and those guns away from the body can only reduce it, and immediately we reduce it, it will come back again. So it is important that this is not allowed to happen at all. Thank you very much. So for couples who want to get married, it is important, like we have always said, that we understand certain things before we marry. Although we are discussing today about Rhesus factor, but it's also important that I quickly chip in the need for you to first of all check your sickle cell status, your hemoglobin status. That is, whether you are hemoglobin SS or SC or AA or AS, because that is another thing that can give us real problem. But coming back to these issues of Rhesus factor, when couples are going to be married, they should take the trouble of recognizing whether they are Rhesus positive or they are Rhesus negative. For those who are both Rhesus positive together, they have no worries at all. However, for those who are Rhesus negative, it is very important that first they cross-check their Rhesus negative status, because there are some people who are what we call the suppressed Rhesus negative. They may have a suppressed Rhesus positive under, so that they will not be suddenly surprised when the babies are having issues. So if you are told you are Rhesus negative, further confirm that you are truly Rhesus negative. Now, if there is incompatibility, that is, the one person is positive and one is negative, especially when the woman is negative, it is the woman that is a critical matter here. If the husband is negative and the woman is positive, there's no problem. But when the woman is negative and then the husband is positive, while they are considering marriage and we cannot stop them from marrying, then they must have in mind that they should treat themselves in a hospital who is going to take this into consideration. And immediately the woman is pregnant, she should confirm again her Rhesus status and that of the husband. By the time she's 28 weeks in that pregnancy, the hospital is likely to advise her to take what we call an anti-D. That is an injection that is called Rogam injection, that is given to them to prevent what we have referred to as sensitization. That is the production of antibody in case blood from that baby that is being carried in the womb across to that of the mother. When she's 32 weeks again in pregnancy, they're also likely to advise her to do the same. When she delivers, within the first 24 to 72 hours of delivery, she must take that ROGAM again. It's so important that this is taken because this will aid the body soldiers from taking care of any Rhesus blood, positive blood that has moved from the baby into the mother, and prevent the formation of any antibody. Like I said, once antibody has been formed, there's nothing that can be done again to separate it from the body. All we can do is try to wash it off and reduce the volume, but it will always be there. And for those who are procuring abortions or other means of termination of pregnancy, it is important that the product of that abortion is examined properly to ascertain whether it is from a Rhesus positive blood, because even a procured abortion can sensitize a woman, and then it becomes difficult for that woman to carry a baby to term. She will get pregnant, but she will keep losing the baby in the very extreme form, or she will carry the baby and lose them at about 7 months, or she delivers the baby and they die immediately, or she delivers the baby and they keep having jaundice with all the implication of jaundice. The babies that have what we call cerebral palsy, babies that have kernicterus, that their brain will not develop and then will be mentally retarded. It is our desire that these kind of babies are not brought in. That is the essence why we have taken time to discuss this Rhesus factor. And I hope our viewers will not only hear this, check their own Rhesus factor, but we go very much ahead to encourage all females, especially, to know their Rhesus factor. And all intending husbands who are Rhesus positive will take the trouble of finding out from the persons they want to marry what is the person's Rhesus factor. Thank you. It has been a great pleasure partnering with Happy Family Counseling Foundation in discussing these matters of urgent importance, and our desire is that this group will be encouraged by you subscribing, sharing these videos, and in any other ways you wish to support them. Please make effort to support this laudable program. I thank Reverend Komalafe for such a laudable commitment and contribution to the community and the society at large. God bless you.
Alright guys, and it's a wrap on the program Weekly Digest packaged by Happy Family Counseling Foundation. Many thanks to our guests for today, Dr. Ayemi. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the program today and shedding more light on the topic Rhesus factor. Alright, till I come your way again same time next week, don't forget to like our video, subscribe, drop your comments, your questions, and also share this video with family or friends. Till I come your way again next week, I am Toluwalade Arijeniwa saying bye for now and do have a wonderful weekend.